February 16th City Council meeting, and we'll start with roll call.
Lane.
Here.
McDaniel.
Here.
Walker.
Here.
Ritter.
Here.
Murdoch.
Here.
All present.
All right. First up is the consent agenda. Oh, no. Please stand for the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Now we're ready for the agenda. First up is the consent agenda. To approve the minutes of the council meeting on February 2nd and approve pay ordinance number 801. Do you have any questions? Concerns?
I move we approve the consent agenda.
I'll second it.
Have a motion to approve in a second. Any further discussion? All right, roll call.
Lane.
Yes.
McDaniel.
Yes.
Ritter.
Yes.
Murdoch.
Yes.
Walker.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right. Next up is call to public. Members of the public are welcome to use this time to comment about any matter relating to city business not listed on this agenda. The comments that are discussed in the call to public may or may not be acted upon by the council during this meeting. There's a 4-minute time limit. Please stand and be recognized and state your name and address. Do I have anybody in the call to public? All right, seeing none, we'll move on. We have no old business. So moving on to item 4, new business. Consider final plat for Arbor Ridge second plat.
Yes, council, I think we're all aware that Mr. Don Parr has retained ownership of the Arbor Ridge subdivision and is proceeding with the next phases of that development. It was planned as a planned development in 2007. A planned development zoning was approved that shows the whole 90 acres of single-family residential with phase developments throughout. In 2008, the first phase was platted. Those were the first 43 lots that have been in existence since 2008. Mr. Parr has gained control of, I think, was it 19 lots that are left over there, and is going to proceed building on those. But then the next phase is the phase that connects the subdivision to 83rd Street on the east end of the property. It is consistent with the phase 2 that was shown in the preliminary development plan. And so this was ready to happen back sometime in 2008. Phelps Engineering, Harold Phelps is here tonight. They designed the public improvements back at that time. When it went to a staff review, I reviewed those back then. We got comments back to them. And then the kind of brakes were pulled on the subdivision, and we know the history from there. It's language since then. We're ready to start the second phase back up. So from a planning standpoint, the final plat needs to be approved. The Planning Commission considered and recommended approval of this plat at their last meeting. And now it comes forward to the council for final approval. Technically, your action here tonight isn't necessarily to approve the final plat, but you do need to accept the easements and rights of way that will be dedicated with the plat. In addition to those dedications, there's a small tract in the far northeast corner of the plat that will contain a pump station, and that's also being dedicated to the city. So with your approval tonight, we'll get the plat filed. The construction documents are nearing completion. We've done another review, a recent review of those. Phelps Engineering has those back. They're making final revisions. I would expect those to be approved in the next several weeks. And Mr. Parr has indicated that he's a little bit at the mercy of construction schedules with contractors, but intends to do the work this year. So I'll answer any questions you might have. Don and Mr. Phelps are here if you have any questions for me.
Have any questions?
Don't have any discussion. I'd like to make a motion that we accept the easements and right-of-ways on the plat for Arbor Ridge second plat.
Second,
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Yeah, I want you to put some more logs out there. Because we had a lot of phone calls. So I've never seen so many people excited about different things, so
Well, good.
I'm just ready for the next one.
Yeah, we're excited.
All right, roll call.
Lane.
Yes.
Ritter.
Yes.
McDaniel.
Yes.
Murdock.
Yes.
Walker.
Yes?
And Mayor.
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, guys. Item 4B, consider field draft policy.
Yes, council, you remember at the last meeting during call to public, Mr. Paul Johnson addressed the council with a request to revise our policy for the field draft procedure to essentially make a category that would allow teams who are from DeSoto, local teams, to have a first pick at the practice times on our ball fields. Initially, Jay and I were reluctant to change the policy, but after discussing here with the council, you guys said it was a good idea, so we went ahead and did that. The new policies attached to the staff report, I won't go through it all, but essentially what we've done is any team can show up during the field draft, and we're separating those teams into 3 groups. The first group are teams that are associated with DeSoto Parks and Rec. They're part of our program. They are, in our system. That group gets first choice. And so what happens is one coach from each team of that group draws a number, and based on that number, that's the order in which they pick practice time slots. So they go through that process. Once they're done, group teams in Group 2 get through the same thing. In Group 2 we're calling local teams. Those are teams who have the head coach and at least one player reside within the city limits of DeSoto. So that group would then choose numbers, even if it's, however many teams that is, they choose numbers, they make their selections, and then Group 3 is just everybody else. So Jay and I worked on this, we ran it by Paul, he had some suggestions that we incorporated, and I think came up with a policy that everybody can live with, that's workable. And if we approve this tonight, we'll get the word out to everybody who shows up for that field draft, so there's no surprises when people get there, and there's a little different process. So I think this will work well. Paul was going to be here tonight, but he had a conflict. But in essence, his message was that he likes the new policy.
My only question would be the head coach thing, rather than just, I guess,
I think it's a good start, though. I mean, you guys,
Yeah.
it's the simplest way to define it. I mean,
I know, because you could just add somebody
It's-
on as a coach, but
right.
it's still, and
this
I guess
coach
for
would
him
match
it's
the
okay.
roster, and so, right, and
He's a head coach, I'm sure, and that's why
Yeah,
it didn't
well,
matter
that's
to
why it
him,
works for
but
him.
Yeah.
it seems to me that there would be,
There's lots of
that'll be
ways to
something
slice
that
it.
will,
Right.
that'll be an issue, that'll be the next thing that'll come up,
Yeah. So you're thinking a coach? instead
Well,
of the
my
head
whole
coach?
thought is, yeah, it could be that I'm not the head coach, but I'm second line as a coach, and, and my,
Yeah.
and I live in DeSoto too, and what makes it more, why is it okay for him just because he's the head? I'm just
Yeah,
throwing it
devil's
out that
advocate.
it's gonna be an issue.
We talked about that too, and at least in my mind, the justification is, in the typical scenario, the head coach is the one that puts in the bulk of the energy and time and efforts in getting the team to practice, and probably has some money and equipment, and so I think that at least partly justified. Whereas if it's an assistant coach, maybe there's less of a commitment.
We'll see how it goes.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I don't need necessarily a motion or anything, but if everybody's okay with proceeding like this, we will. And we'll let you know how it goes.
I would probably, like Shawnee and Lenex have gone to an online, that probably if we could steer our field draft in that direction in the future, it might be.
Yeah, and Jay and I talked about that too. Too late this year,
Exactly.
but not a bad idea for
Exactly.
next year. Yeah. And come budget time, we might have some discussions about website and maintenance and
Yeah.
all that sort of
Right.
thing.
Yeah, those other needs that would
Yeah.
arise.
Yeah, I'd like to see that done.
Clean it.
Good idea, Rick.
Okay. Okay, that was all I had on that issue.
All right. Item 4C, consider proposal for design services for the 2017 CDBG Fire Station Rehab Project.
Yes, you'll remember that will be the last phase of our efforts to rehabilitate the fire station building. The work that we did recently addressed the south facade with the block face, and we're actually not done with that project yet, but addressed leaky windows and the brick facade on the south. We addressed some drainage issues and block work on the north side. This effort is CDBG funded. We got $60,000 for this for 2017 to address essentially the split block face on the eastern face of the building that also wraps around the south, and then the north block to coat those areas on the north face. The design services from DGM consultants are needed to, like we did with the last phase, generate the bid documents, administer those, and do the inspections and make recommendations during the work. Both Steve and I have been very impressed with Tom McMicken, who is DGM, very thorough, very helpful, keeps contractors in line, really has identified cost-saving measures for us. We've been very impressed with his work. So we would love to continue with him for the next phase. His proposal there is attached. The total amount is $10,625, and I'd like for you to authorize me to sign that agreement with him, with the funds coming from capital improvement.
The 60,000 we have, that's the total of our budget, or do we have some matching funds to throw at that as well?
Well, 60,000 is what we're getting from CDBG. Everything else is within the umbrella of the the 2017 CIP that we talked about here in the last meeting. So if there's an overage, so this would come out of that.
Yes.
If there's an overage, when we get the bids, we'll have a discussion about that. The good thing about Don is he's aware of the budget, and he has all the tricks to get a successful project within a budget.
But we think our total cost is gonna be somewhere around the 60,000.
It's gonna be close. Yeah, with this, we think it'll be close. Now, I can't promise anything.
No.
But,
That's what I was,
yeah.
I didn't ask the question very well.
Well, I probably didn't answer it very well either. did I?
Mike, the crack in the front window, is that something that happened during the
Yeah,
repairs?
yeah,
How's
they
that
did
gonna
it.
be?
Well, we think the scaffolding company did it, but they're gonna fix that window, yeah. And actually, that window, well, we could go on all night, but the window itself is too small for the frame, which is, I think, part of why it was leaking. So it needed replaced.
We could have saved all this money by just getting
Putting
new
the right,
windows.
putting the glass.
I
in
told
there.
you that between the years. but somebody-
I hadn't been told that.
I know,
We
you-
saved
I would have broke the
$1
window
on that
for you,
piece of
and
glass.
then we could have,
Yeah, yeah.
Good
I probably
accident.
had
So
it
we should have just
already.
put some tape on the window and then we got it fixed. No, I just wanted to know if they were gonna fix it. That's-
Yeah, they've acknowledged that they did break that. And they would fix it. Yeah.
Well, I'll make a motion that we approve Mike to go in contract with them on the repairs to the facade on the fire station.
I'll second the motion.
Got a motion and a second to approve professional services for the fire station. Any further discussion? All right, roll call.
Walker,
Yes.
McDaniel,
Yes.
Murdock,
Yes.
Ritter,
Yes.
Lane.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right. Item 4D, consider agreement with H.W. Wagner for the 2017 bridge inspections.
Yes, council, it's bridge inspection time again. This is a something we are required by law to do every 2 years. We have 8 bridges in our inventory that need inspecting. H.W. Lochner, used to be Booker, Willis, and Ratliff, have done our bridge inspections since at least 2001, and that was back when the county was doing them. They also do all the county stuff too. And this is a scope that's much like years past. They'll do all 8 bridges, all the required documentation to KDOT. They provide us the field reports, the surveys, the inventory, all the information we need to remain compliant with that program, with those requirements. They also provide us recommendations on rehabilitations and cost estimates for those rehabilitations. So you'd like your approval to enter into the contract with H.W. Lochner. Total fee is $4,000. Before we do that, I've also asked Lochner to get me a proposal to take a closer look at the 83rd Street Railroad Bridge, the one that you mentioned
Yeah.
wasn't, to look at the costs associated with replacing that. They did a little more detailed work, and that's when we got, I think what we have in the CIP is somewhere around $2 million, just in the cost estimate.
Yeah.
So I've asked them to sharpen their pencil on that,
Yeah.
to see what, a little better, more close to what our.
Do more of a design report and
Yeah,
closer cost estimate.
Right, something where we can go and ask for funding.
Right, we need to get an
Yeah.
application, information to get an application. in.
Right. So they owe me that, but that's coming. This wouldn't include any of
Alright. So you need authorization for $4,000?
that. Yeah, authorization
Engineering
and the
services.
contract that's attached to the staff report, yes.
Okay, I'll make a motion, we authorize Mike to sign the agreement with H.W. Lochner in the amount of $4,000.
Second?
I have a motion and a second to approve engineering services. Any discussion?
Mayor, if I can just, and
Sure.
I'm pretty sure Mike, you can maybe remind me, and I think we agreed to this in previous years, but there is a limitation of liability to $100,000, and I don't know, Mike, what your thoughts are on if that's, essentially they're saying if they screw up, I guess, on the inspection, their liability is limited to
Yeah.
$100,000.
Well, yeah, this is something that's on, like all these engineering contracts, they like to limit that. And I think what we haven't changed is the limitation is the limit on their liability insurance, is that right?
We've done that at times to say that, right, that it would be
Yeah.
limited to insurance.
Usually we're pretty sensitive about that when they're designing a project. But I mean, I guess in this case, there's some liabilities to consider. Maybe we need to talk that through with them
So,
about that limit, increasing it to their liability insurance.
yeah, if you could just add that to your motion, you can go ahead and approve it, but I'll discuss that with them and see if that's something they'll agree to.
All right.
I'm sure they will.
Yeah, we've never had anybody turn us down on that one.
You want to add that to your motion?
Yes, please do.
Thanks.
All right. Roll call.
Lane,
Yes.
McDaniel,
Yes.
Walker.
Yes.
Ritter,
Yes.
Murdoch.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Consider repair proposal for the motor grader.
Yes, council, this is kind of an unfortunate situation. Our motor grader just has a leaky oil pan gasket, and anybody with a set of wrenches doesn't think that's a very big job, really, on most, in most cases. Unfortunately, with the motor grader, to get to the oil pan, you have to remove the motor. I guess it sits right on top of the transfer case and some of the gearbox transmission, and you just can't get to it unless you remove that motor. So that's not something we can tackle on our own. We have a repair estimate from Murphy Tractor. Murphy is really the only shop in the area that's really capable of doing this. These are the guys we use for stuff like this. Their estimate's just over $8,300 for this work. My limit's $5,000, so I need your approval to proceed with this. We're confident that the motor grader is worth spending $8,000 on. It's got years of useful life left. It's a '96 model, but it's been very well maintained, and so it's a pretty critical piece of equipment for us. So it's important that we get this back on the road as soon as we can. The budget for this, the street department has a contractual vehicle maintenance and repair line item. It's got a $28,000 allocation for this year. Last year we spent about $1,200 or $12,600 of that. And I think we'll be okay on that line item. Of course, I can't promise a major breakdown, and this will be a hit to that. But it's something that we need to do. So I'd like your approval to proceed with Murphy.
I'll make a motion authorizing you to proceed with repairs with Murphy Tractor for 8309.43.
I'll second the motion.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call.
Ritter,
Yes.
Murdock,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
McDaniel,
Yes.
Lane.
Yes.
Motion carries.
I will say, when we was cleaning out at the house there, I found a shop manual on a motor grader, but it's back in the 30s.
Wow.
So pretty cool looking, it's just a little small little thing, but
What in the world are you doing with a shop manual on a motor grader?
I had no idea why he had that, but I thought it was
We'll
kind
bring
of.
it down the shop, maybe we figure out that oil tank gas.
No, they gotta take that motor out.
Yeah,
We don't have a tree big enough to hang that.
yeah. Or a mule to pull the rope, yeah. All right, moving on. Item 4F, consider proposal for purchase of park department
Rhododarian.
rhododendron.
Yeah, no, you're not the only one that can't pronounce that. This is Jay's soil amendment, piece of equipment that we approved with the capital improvements, plan for this year. We had, $10,100 in that program to purchase this piece of equipment. I've included the quote from, STEC. They are the only North American distributor of this equipment, so we can't get it from anywhere else. But we did go through a selection process. We compared this piece of equipment with other similar pieces of equipment, and wound up on a quality and price basis, selecting this to go with, and this is what we recommended to you. So this is the formal price quote. It does include $600 of freight. Jay would like to move forward with this because he's got some plans for it for spring maintenance stuff. So with your approval, if you could make a motion authorizing me to spend that $10,100 from the capital improvements fund.
Question. What kind of warranty does this thing have?
It's a 1-year standard manufacturer warranty.
And are we gonna be able to get parts for it, hopefully? How long has this company been in business?
I
For the
can't
only
answer how
one-
long.
For the only ones, I mean,
Yeah.
they need the machine, but I'm just,
It
machine
is.
breaks down.
Well, that's a good point. I mean, it's obviously a pretty specialized piece of equipment. You're not gonna go to, you're not gonna just go to the auto parts store and get a piece, but, yeah, that's a good point. But I'm not sure any other similar piece of equipment would be any better. They're all pretty specialized piece of machinery.
Any other questions? How about a motion?
I move we authorize, city administrator order the rhododendron for the amount of $10,100.
I'll second that.
Got a motion and a second, any discussion? Roll call.
Lane,
Yes.
McDaniel,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Ritter,
Yes.
Murdoch.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right. Assume no executive session. Advisory reports, Mike.
I do have a couple of items. I'd like to have a discussion. There's an item I placed at your places here. Got an email from Alan Soutard. He's the manager of Rural Water District 7. As we've talked about before, Rural District 7 acquired Rural District 6 toward the end of last year. And it actually, I think, became official on January 1st of this year. So Rural District 6 is no more. Rural District 7 is now our rural water neighbor to the south. And Alan and I have been discussing a need to get together and establish a service territory agreement. Rural 7, for their part, has service territory agreements with every city that they are close to, including Spring Hill, Edgerton, Olathe, and Gardner. They have existing agreements in place, and I've expressed our desire to hammer one out so that we know where our future service territory is, with particular sensitivity to the Sunflower property. So as we're setting that up, you know, he's got some things he needs to work through, just in terms of taking over the management of the district, but the intent is, full intent is to have those discussions and work that out between this council here and their board. But in the meantime, he did get a request from a property owner at along Edgerton Road. It'd be at the northeast corner of 103rd and Edgerton. Shancy is the name of the property. If you're looking at the map here, he got the request from that property owner. He wants to build a home sometime this spring, and he'd like water service. Rural 7 has a 12-inch water line that runs right down Edgerton Road. Comes westward along 95th to Edgerton, turns south on Edgerton, runs to 103rd, and then heads west on 103rd. So the line is directly adjacent to that property. Mr. Soutard also mentioned that the two properties to the east, the other ones that are in yellow, Gabriel and Asher, also would like to be annexed into the Rural 7's water service territory, although they don't have any immediate plans to need service. By way of background, there's a legal question about water service territories of rural water districts. They do have established incorporated boundaries, just a lot like cities do. And those are drawn, those are kept, and those are legal boundaries. And some rural districts are better than others at making sure that if they provide service outside those boundaries, that they go through a process to actually formally annex those into the rural districts. So in this case, when he first brought it forward, I'd always been under the impression that Rural 6's service territory really was kind of everything south of 95th was theirs, and I knew Sunflower wasn't in any rural service territory. So that was my first reaction, but in looking at the actual service map that's on file with the state, the formal official one for the old Rural 6 and now Rural 7, this property isn't actually in that boundary. If you look at the map that you have in front of you, there's a thick blue line that runs right down Edgerton Road. It runs west along 103rd Street, also runs half-mile north of Edgerton and heads east. That's the service territory boundary for Rural 7. So everything north and west of that line is already in the service territory for Rural 7. And by the way, it goes north of K10, it's everything west of the city of DeSoto, goes along 95th. You can see what's there in their service territory. And you can see that this box in yellow isn't. So the request is, Rural 7 has a practice of formally annexing those territories. That requires, I think, some sort of approval from the Board of County Commissioners. And what they've done in the past is provided some letter of consent from the adjoining city. And this has to do with being within the fringe area of the city, which is actually 3 miles outside the city limits. So this is the fringe area where they kind of concern themselves with this issue. Any annexation of territory they do in that, they typically get this letter of support from the city. So they would like to have that, they've asked for that, for all three properties in yellow there. And again, we realize that, and Mr. Souttar realizes, and the board realizes, I think, that we do need to sit down and hammer out a service territory agreement. They know that our primary concerns are, the Sunflower property and probably stuff north of K-10, at least immediately. But this is just something they need to respond to a request of that particular property owner. So I'd like to, get back with him on this. I know time's of the essence for them. What I'd like to do, and I think in the overall scheme of things, the property that abuts Edgerton, the one that is wanting to build the house now, I think we'd be obstructing his ability to build his house if we were to say, no, we're just, let's wait and work out the whole agreement. I think it's reasonable to take that stance on the Gabriel and Asher properties, to say we would like to hold off on those two properties until we can have this discussion with overall service territory. They're not needing to do anything now, they're not in a position. But the one there on the corner does seem like there's some urgency to it. We're quite a ways away, for us to provide service wouldn't be as quick or easy as Rule 7. I think that's pretty clear, just from where the systems are now. So I'll turn it over to you. I want to get your opinions on it, kind of get some direction from you guys. And if you want to wait and think on it for a couple weeks, we don't have to make, we can hold off on any.
Well, we don't have service along, we don't have water mains in that vicinity.
Well, right. We do have a water
I mean,
main.
we have our big line there, right?
We have our big line comes probably within 1,000 feet of the southeast corner of that yellow box, because we serve Clearview City with
Right.
with kind of a larger line that runs along there and stops. So we're probably within 1,000 feet. I'm sure we're within 1,000 feet of that southeast corner, but we don't have anything else west of there.
This is just county property, correct? We're
Yeah, it's not in the city
city
limits.
The city limits.
Right.
And as far as the future use of it, I know you're saying that the guy on the end wants to build a house.
Right.
Is it possible that this is gonna be anything more than just 3 houses? That it's gonna be
Yeah.
a development type?
Well, that's a good discussion to have. Our future land use map doesn't say residential here. It's mixed use, or it's commercial. I think with influences from something that might happen at Sunflower, we don't see that as a rural residential area. Now, one house on a 12 to 20 acre tract.
This is a 20 acre tract.
Well, I say that, I don't know exactly, Dan.
It looks big. I
It's
mean,
pretty big.
Looks pretty
They're
big.
more- they're both
I would bet it's 20 acres.
They're both more than, but one house on that big tract isn't a bad holding pattern for something, it doesn't preclude something more intense from happening there. Now if we're talking about 5 houses on 2 acre lots, that might be something we have a little concern about, just from a planning standpoint, regardless of the water surface.
Well, and that, I guess, is kind of my question, that, the one, but when you start looking at the Gabriel and Asher, depending on what comes into that, I hate to lose, the rights to that, and then all of a sudden they sell it for some industrial type thing, that, using a lot of water, that would have been well worth us doing it, so I'm not, it, as, where it's at and adjacent to our water plant and where we already have service, I understand for this particular guy that wants to build a house on his land, but I'm a little leery about giving up rights for the 2 that are next to it.
We've been talking about our growth is west,
Right,
and they have that water line runs right all over to the Douglas County line, which kind of is in our way. But if we let them have this out there, then next thing you know, they're gonna want those next two parcels of ground.
Mhm.
And well, I can't see letting anybody, any other water company in there, I really don't. And what I'd like for Mike to go and sit down with them and talk to them about what their intentions are, because, you know, when they got Water District 6, nobody ever came to us and asked us, were we interested in Water District 6? And a lot of Water District 6 is in our city. And personally, I think we should have Water District 6, but we could have supplied the water to them. Olathe is selling that water to Water District 7, so they just keep growing and growing and growing, and they're gonna get us on the south end sooner or later. Next 5 years, you're gonna see them want to annex out there at 119th Street and 105th Street. They're gonna want that. And then the next thing you know, they're gonna want this on west of us, because they're gonna say, well, we supply them with water, and you can't give them water, and you can't give them electricity, and you can't give them fire protection. What can you get? And sewer, what can you give them? Sooner or later, we're gonna have to get up off our knees and go out there and do something. I don't know when, but whenever Walker comes up with some money. Am I looking at this wrong?
No, I
I'm
think we
looking at the
don't
future of our
our
city as
future
a
service
city.
area. I agree.
I don't want Gardner coming up here and telling us, oh, well, we wanna do this, we wanna do this. But I think it would be good if Mike could sit down with them and talk with them, and maybe the mayor being involved in that.
Well, yeah, definitely that's the direction we're in, you know, because I think there's opportunities to work this out in a very agreeable nature. You know, we both have, you know, people needing water, you know, we have excess capacity, they need excess capacity. We have hydraulic abilities within the water tower, they need some hydraulic abilities in this area. It truly is, Ron, I think, a new day with the
And
management
plus those
taking
tracks are
over.
so big through there.
Yeah, well, the track we're looking at here, along the corner, the smallest one, looks like it's 48 acres.
And the others are bigger,
Yeah, they're huge.
2 times that size
Yeah.
and 3 times that size.
Right.
Yeah, they're really big tracks.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
why I'm really reluctant to get.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my whole, you
Yeah.
know, because that could be,
Could be 14 acre lots.
That could be big.
Yeah,
I mean, you know.
Right,
yeah,
Yeah.
which is not what we would want. We wouldn't want 4 10-acre lots there.
right.
I mean, I don't think that serves anybody well. Although,
Telling them to annex in the southern would be more agreeable.
Well, what we're gonna have to do is on the west side of us, we got the opportunity to put the sewer line down that Sunflower Road to our sewer plant. And it's there, the line is there. I think we need to pursue that with whoever owns that line, Sunflower Plant or
yeah.
whoever, but I think we need to pursue that so that things like this, we can hook onto that and pump our poop right down that line. In 91st Street, you know, I said the first of last year that we needed to do something about building 91st Street. Of course, we didn't get no help. What did we come up with, Walker, $1 million?
I think some run that way, Mike.
Yep. Yeah, that's right.
But
Nice round
that's
number.
2 things that we need to do. I'm sorry, but for this town to grow, we have to have sewer. Everybody thinks I'm crazy about 95th Street, but I think the sewer needs to run from Kill Creek all the way down 95th Street to back of Betty Cannon's and hook onto it and pump it some more. But Mitra and I have argued over this when I first came on the council about, well, she said, we have to have too many pumps. I said, Mitra, just drive around, we got lots of pumps now. We gotta pump it. And
Everything gets pumped.
so, you
Nothing
know,
flows into that sewer plant.
I don't know, I think, I just think we need to do something over on the west side, and water and sewer is what it takes to get houses.
So if we don't agree to this, can the county go ahead and give an agreement with 7?
Yeah, my impression is that our consent is not needed, but I think the Board of County Commission is used to seeing it, and it might give them pause. Now, you know, they might not, I don't know. If we go actively oppose it, you know, I think that might be a different story. But I think if I don't know. What I'd be inclined to do is respond to this, you know, if everybody's agreed, and I don't know if we have agreement or not, but respond with, you know, we're okay with that westernmost property, you annex that, but we prefer you not annex the other 2 until we can have a dialogue about service territory.
I'm not for that
I'm
one.
not for that at all.
We're not for either one.
No, I'm not.
No, I'm not.
You give up
Mike,
that property, then
They're
I don't
going one
want
or the
to,
other.
I don't want to give them any.
you don't have an argument for the next two.
Yeah.
Cause you got a guy that wanted to build houses over there with 2 acre lots.
I think the way that I would look at it is, if it can happen without us agreeing or not, you know, saying, you know, we're not gonna agree to it, but it still can happen. At least we've stood our ground, so then when the next one comes along, if the next guy says, well, now I wanna build my house, we gave it to the last one, but, you know, my big concern is that it's not gonna be houses that are ending up on that land there.
Yes.
And I don't wanna lose that, you know, without a fight, but, and so if we say, you know, the property that they want right away, I mean, if they can take it, even if, I mean, if there's a possibility, well, at least we still were standing on, we don't wanna give it up.
Okay.
I mean, is the way I see it.
Yes.
I mean,
Yeah.
and I could be wrong, I don't wanna be like the bad
Oh, right.
counsel
Right.
that isn't giving something away because of it, but I think when we look at it and I'd rather stand our ground saying we aren't
How
wanting
far
to
do we
give
have
that
to
up.
run a water line?
1,000 feet.
Does that make sense?
Well,
what I'm trying to say?
it'd be
So,
more to
I
the,
mean, if they do it, they do it.
we're within 1,000 feet
At least
of
when
the
the next
east
one comes along,
half.
we say, well, we fought for that one, we weren't willing to give it that one away.
I don't think they're able to do 2 acre houses. I think 10 minimum in the county. I still
Mike, do you
it's
think
something
Alan would be
to
open to holding off
Yeah, 'cause
on,
this piece right here is
Oh, I almost don't know.
next to that. You guys discuss all this stuff.
Yeah. Well,
holding off on annex, you know, that similar, you know, what we did with Water One, where just for a period of time, they agreed to provide water, where Rural 7 we could have an agreement that they would provide water to this homeowner, but not
yeah.
have it part of their territory, be a temporary thing until we had the discussions and figured out who, you know, who
I
would
think-
serve.
I think that's, a lot of those sorts of things are gonna be talked about when we talk about the overall service, the service territory agreement. But I'm not sure we can really work that out in time for this guy to build his house.
Well, I just meant for this one homeowner that Alan would say, okay, we won't go to the county, we won't try to add this to our territory, but we'll go ahead and provide him
It'll
water
serve them.
for right now.
Okay.
And then, you know, when those discussions happen.
Yeah, and they don't formally annex them into their
Right,
territory.
so it's just sort of in limbo until
Yeah.
things are,
Yeah, sure, we can approach them with that. That might be a solution.
Yeah.
But I think what I'm hearing, is that, no, we're not gonna consent.
We see that as our future growth area and we don't wanna give it up.
Yeah, we prefer to have a global discussion about mutual interests in this area, and we'd like to proceed toward a service territory agreement. Rather
Yeah.
than, okay.
and as you mentioned, Mike, I mean, the law is, if there's area not in their territory, not within the city, then it comes down to
Who's able to provide this?
who has the closest infrastructure, who's more reasonably able to
Yeah.
provide, and I don't know.
Well, I think for the western part, that's them, but
Yeah, right.
for the eastern one, it's us, you know, and in the middle, maybe you can argue back and forth. Okay, well, I think that's adequate direction.
When you get that hooked up, how big is the center lot?
80? If that one's 40.
I would think-
Probably 80 and 60.
94 it says there, and then Asher is 78.
Oh, so there's the 80.
2 and 3 times.
Yeah. 160 acres there between the Asher and the Gabriel.
Okay, well, thanks for that discussion. Hopefully it'll move us toward those discussions with the rural district. I mean, that's been the intent all along. It's just, they've just had quite a bit of work to do here at the first of the year, so we do intend to. The other thing, what else do I have? Oh, our public engagement meetings with our visioning process. I've arranged next Wednesday, with February 22nd, for there's actually 2 public engagement workshops that I send out some letters to business owners in the community, put it on Facebook, advertise it on our website. We're gonna do them kind of like we did the first ones. There'll be a 2-hour session from 2 to 4, and then another 2-hour session from 6 to 8. I don't know what sort of response I'm gonna give. We got great response to the first one when there was individuals targeted. This is just open to anybody. So, I don't know how many people we'll get, but it'll be another opportunity to get more public input, which was a clear message from the first focus session that, hey, you guys need to have some more public input on this visioning and this strategic plan process. So that's what we're doing. And we'll do that in time for, remember, our retreat on March 4th. So we'll have that. It'll be an all-day long thing up at Johnson County. We'll feed you breakfast. We'll feed you lunch. So be ready for that. I'll get more information out to you as we get closer to that. And then the last thing I had was we had the State of the County address on March 28th. It sounds like Sarah Ritter has a table. Is anybody interested in going? I think I'll go. Looks like Ron's going.
I think I told him I would, I let Sarah and Lana know.
See, I think it's Sarah's invitation, but she's seen it to Lana. You going to?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. All right, well, let Lana or myself know if you intend on attending that. That's all I have.
All right. Patrick?
Nothing other than I distributed this email on the house that Larry Inman has raised concerns about. Looks like that's moving towards getting back on the market to be sold. So that's it for me.
All right. I guess we'll have council. Danny?
I just have one thing, Mayor, and this is for either Pat or Mike. Did we find out anything on that contract with the fire department, or, about the dollar and getting them to sign,
Lease agreement?
the lease agreement?
I've heard nothing from them, other than I know Mike had a meeting with Chief. Did you have a meeting with Chief Wim?
Yeah, I met with Chief Wim and Walt a couple weeks ago. Did mention, among just other things, but mentioned the lease, and they indicated a willingness and intent to move forward with that, but I honestly haven't followed up with that. I know, is it more than a year?
Yeah, we need to get that done, and we need to tell them to go ahead and,
Well, they say they don't have no money.
I'll give them the dollar.
But the lease included some future repair
We have to just,
stipulations,
A
didn't it?
discussion about
Yeah.
the responsibility for future
could we
repairs.
maybe look at what that, if they haven't signed it yet, can we look at that again?
Yeah.
Sure.
Like as a council?
Yeah.
So that we can see if, now that we're getting the changes that already been made, that we can maybe look at it and see if there's something different we want in it, and then bring it back to them and say, okay, this is where we're at on this?
Yep.
Would that be a
Yep,
possibility?
I'll put that on the,
I mean, if there's things in it
Next
that you
agenda.
guys already know,
Well,
you know.
my discussion with them centered on, a recognition of all we've been doing the last 3 or 4 years. We've spent hundreds of thousands up there. And my personal desire to, after we get, I think our responsibility is, let's get the building structurally sound and watertight and airtight, and mechanically sound, and then turn the maintenance over
Right.
specifically on the inside, but just to them. And, they didn't disagree with that.
yeah. Is that what the
Did they say
lease
anything about,
says?
oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Is that what the lease says, though, or didn't it say something like we would get together and we would work
it
to
out.
determine that,
well, the
one that-
lease that
that we,
was presented to them and
Right.
that they never signed, indicated that they were supposed to have a dialogue with the city about these repairs that we're working on now. And it also said that once those agreed repairs are completed, then the city would be expecting them to take care of any maintenance moving forward. And I know, like, I've talked, Walt called me as well, and at least at that point, he was expressing concern about, well, gosh, you know, we need to talk to the city about improvements on the inside too, and, you know, expressing they don't have any money, but,
They got two
Big
guys up there
20-some
in Thor
mills.
on the weekend, they can paint that building on the inside.
They could,
The
They're
last-
not doing anything.
the
up
last
there.
time
I
that
still
building
say
was-
they don't need the upstairs. Once we get this
Right.
thing done, we need to
Right.
tell them, get downstairs where you belong. Well, they told, my brother said, well, we don't have a shower, and I said, well, put one in. It don't take much to put a shower in, you got a drain hole there, put it in there. I said, you guys.
most of those guys are
And
Well,
also
I-
about that front door where they ran into it with fire trucks, it's pretty.
That's another question, do they have insurance?
One of their trucks was hit
Do we
that door,
know?
and, they beat it back out. I don't know how, they either backed into it or they,
It's common. There was some pretty good dents in there from the past. You've seen
I
some
don't
new
know.
ones, that's for sure. I mean, it's not uncommon for it to be
Patrick,
left
do you
out.
know if they have insurance?
well, per the lease, they're required to, but since they didn't sign it, I don't know if they, I mean, I would,
Well, that needs to be pursued, because they gotta have insurance.
So,
yeah.
one or two things, either we have a sit down with them and do some of these things and then bring an agreeable lease to us, or do we want to just, us look through the lease and come up with some answers? I mean, obviously, there needs to be another communication with
Yes.
them and a couple of people here to kind of work this out.
Yeah,
So,
it seems like it's been long enough.
do you think it would be possible that we can get a meeting with,
We had a meeting out there about 4 or 5 years ago, out there on the Gill Creek with them.
yeah, but I mean, just to deal with this, a couple of them and maybe, you know, a couple of us to sit down with them and try to, instead of doing it, all of us in a council meeting and trying to go back and forth, maybe get Mike and Patrick and at least one council member to just sit down there and kind of try to work something out here and
That
then,
sounds like a good idea.
and then maybe,
Yeah.
and, you know, set a
Chief
meeting with
and
whoever
all
wants to from there.
Yeah, and that way it's not involved in the
Then we
whole
can bring it
council,
back
yeah.
to the council as a finished product of what would be best.
Yep.
sure.
So,
That'd be
Is
willing to-
the,
would, maybe Kevin, he knows the fire station and pretty well and
I'd be
Okay.
willing to help.
maybe that'd be good.
I would
Yeah.
like to revisit it though, because I was not part of the council when we just we looked at it.
yeah, definitely. I'll just send it out to you by email, but is the consensus just generally that, like, we're expected the district to kind of take over the building?
I think that's
moving
Well, at
what
least the part that, I mean, if
The
we're
part
gonna
that they're
limit them
using.
to the first floor, then they would be responsible for, I would say, for any ongoing maintenance and.
Just like any other lease would be, I mean, you're
Right.
renting the space, it's just that
Right.
they're getting it for cheap, and they're renting the space, but they're responsible for the maintenance, and you know, it might not be a bad idea for you guys to meet over there, so you can tell them, okay, this part, you need this part, no, you know, but let's, you know,
Yeah, or
Well,
find
we
out what
did
it,
that.
what it's gonna take
And
to
if we
get
have to
them
put a
down to the
shower
first
down
floor.
there.
yeah,
or,
is
you
it
know,
possible or
yeah.
not?
And-
Yeah.
Or if they can't.
And they should be
put a
responsible
shower
for
in.
damages that they create, so I mean, and be
Right.
held accountable for
Take care of
those.
their own, they don't.
There's no incentive for them to sign a lease. They just let it go and let it go, and they don't have to be
Well, maybe if we
responsible.
go change the locks and they can't get in there.
Well, I'd say, well, we've decided we're gonna want more than $1. We want $500 a month, if you're not gonna sign the lease.
Well, I think we just need to work it out and get it, I think it'll get done,
Yeah,
I think it's just a matter of.
that's a great suggestion. So
Get your
Kevin
group
will
together.
work with you to
Yeah,
on the schedule?
yeah.
Okay.
That'd be great, I
Very
think
good.
that would be a good way to work on it.
All right, anything else, Danny?
That's all I had, thank you, Mayor.
Okay. Ron,
I'm done.
you're done? Rick,
Nothing tonight, Mayor.
nothing? Lloyd?
I have one kind of question. When we were talking about the CIP and we were talking about Sunflower Road and needing to resurface it, what,
Right.
is that what, was it the whole, can you remind, I guess
So-
my question is coming up that I talked to a lady that lives out there and was just,
Oh, yeah.
and just
Yeah.
like, oh, how's the park coming along and are you enjoy watching it? Well, you know, there's like 500 trucks a day going in there and this
Yeah,
road is
boy.
just a mess and blah, blah, blah. So my concern is, are they gonna fix Sunflower Road when they're done doing all this work on it to
Yeah, so
at
that
least what it
item,
was?
We are too.
well, that item on the CIP list stemmed from the meeting that Rick and I had more than a year and a half ago with the county. They do intend to hard surface Sunflower from the park down to 95th Street.
Okay.
The scope, the exact scope of that was just kind of a surfacing and maybe some shoulder work, so it's not a full-blown curb and gutter stuff, but would take care of the dust and the rutting. They were looking to us for about a third of that cost, which would be about $35,000. And then they would, I guess the Park District would pick up a third, and then the county would. I don't have an update on where that project is in their schedule, so I'll get that and report back.
Well, I was just curious, if they're, I guess my thought is if they're tearing up the road while they're putting in this park, then they should be the one fixing the road.
Well,
Yeah.
it's still back to the same thing, that they're gonna be driving off, getting off and coming on 95th Street out through Sunflower Road. 95th Street is nothing but millings, and we just put oil and stuff on it, but it won't last a year. And we will be spending a 91st Street project of about $300,000 to fix it.
But, and once this park is there and this stuff is happening, I'm sure we're gonna have a little bit, have traffic counts, we can probably do traffic counts and kind of get an idea of what's going on. Maybe at that point, opening, you know, the county helping out. or doing
Yeah, I
some
think
of their
it's
grants or whatever.
it's a difficult case to make
Yeah.
now.
Right.
When we did in our meeting say that we met, you know, if we see where on our streets, we'll be back
Yeah,
to talk to
yeah,
you
we did.
again.
We laid the groundwork. I don't know if they heard it, but
Yeah, and I get that, but I think, I was just curious as to if they were planning on fixing the park deck.
So they're not gonna go over to 87th Street.
well, you know, maybe on this, maybe
I think they are, from
Maybe they
87th
would, yeah,
Street
87th
to
and
95th
95th.
Street.
I'll ask. I'll ask.
Yeah.
Get that.
Because the east side of that street, Sunflower Road, is in our city limits.
Yeah, because of the
Right.
rolling issue. Yeah. But they've maintained that stretch forever. So
Okay, that was it, I was just curious as
Yeah.
to what was gonna happen with that road, if it's truly is getting that much traffic, it's probably is getting,
the construction, I'm sure, lately. You just don't know what the traffic's gonna be after the construction. You know, for the first phase, I would say.
right,
Anything else?
nope, that's it, no.
Kevin?
No, I've seen some very large trucks hauling a lot of material down 98th Street. And I know it was on your list sometime to be repaired, but it looks like they're starting to tear it up, and I don't know where it looks like they're dumping it south towards the county. The materials, but there's a lot of haul trucks going down there.
98.
I'm sorry,
95th?
no, it's Waverly, south of
Oh.
95th. They're going down, they're coming across Waverly, and then they're going south on 90,
Yeah.
or on Waverly past 98th. So they're dumping south of the city.
Huh.
But there's been 50 trucks now, or more. I mean, it's continuous,
Haven't heard.
so. They get off on 95th and they go south on Waverly past Church Oaks. But the street, I think, was on some of your discussion, Mike, about repaired and bad, and it's gonna get far worse with them trucks on it.
Yeah. Yeah, that stretch of Waverly's been a problem for us for a long time.
I don't know if there's
I'll see
anything
if I
to
can
be done,
find
I
out.
just wanted you to know they're on it.
Yeah, okay.
All right. Anything else, Kevin?
No, I'm good.
Well, I don't have anything.
Well, that move we adjourned.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, we're done.
We're on my streets.
That was
Actually, where I live.
like 98, I don't even know where there is 98
Well,
street, so.
I just happen to be home more, so,